Hello YouTube, Infinite Magicraid community, Gandalf here. Thought I'd do a quick update here. I am on stage 38, and I don't think anybody has gotten past stage 38 yet. It is one heck of a boss. We will show his kit maybe on the stage 30 version. Basically, there are 8 bosses. They rotate like with 10 level difficulty up each time, and I'll basically in this video quickly go over the tips and guides on each of the boss and help you push through, and perhaps for these bosses, what are the buffs you should be going for. At this point in the game, I really hope you have all 360 of them purchased already. It's really just about picking the right buff you want for each boss. So starting off with the first one, let's go with Ifrit. Ifrit, ideally what you want to run is he's gonna like the Ifrit is actually a tricky one. I'll say out of all these bosses, I'm least prepared to fight Ifrit. I beat Ifrit using kind of a brute force approach before, and I don't know if I'm able to do it on this one. But the key thing to remember about Ifrit is you really need to make sure that you have attack down and defense down the whole time. Otherwise, you're going to have a lot of problem, and you can't use any dot damage shield on him. So Little Jack is not going to work. You will notice Jingle Bell will be used in a lot of teams, but with this one, I would say, you know, Withering Coast is an option for everyone now. And getting Dharma to E5 is going to be a huge game changer. And all the places where later in this video, you're going to be like, oh, I don't have an E5 Jingle Bell, and, you know, I'm not a big whale. You can use Dharma in every single one of those situations, and you'll be fine. And Dharma is going to provide the attack down, defense down very consistently in his skill kit. And he's going to do a ton of damage to the boss. So that's kind of the general tip I'll give. And for this boss, I guess in the video, unless I state so otherwise, the optimal pick in my mind is to pick the power of defense with the power of frost and the power of prowess. The reason why I think these three are probably the best setup, and it's the best setup when you're considering using more of direct damage build as you push through. There's a lot of great synergy, right? You're going to be using Nordak most of the time, so you're going to be stacking up tons of shield. So you're going to be doing direct damage, and this is going to synergize with a lot of the direct damage emblems or cards, whatever it may call, right? So you're going to get extra shields. You're going to make yourself survive a lot of stuff. Like, I would say things like Redemption is kind of useless, because really, if you need a heal and trying to leverage sort of kind of prevent yourself from getting killed, you're pushing yourself a little bit too far. There are 2 bosses that will be a lot better, I would say, on poison and with burning. We'll get to them. They're Nagia and Marius respectively. We'll get to that in a bit. But as we go through, these are the basically 3 best emblem you should, or 3 combination you should be using. Here, Power of Frost allow the enemy to be slowed down immediately. Hold on, why does it look like this? Yeah, so immediately you're getting so defense here, you're getting the extra shield and you're doing the damage, right? Power prowess, and you're going to be doing damage to the enemy shield from the card 5. Okay, sorry, my bad. I should probably view it from here, because, yeah, explains a little bit better, right? So the main skill here is you're doing shield damage, and rest of it is just giving you a lot of shield effects. But here, you're getting more shields at the end of ally turn. Here, you're getting damage resistance, which is really great. So overall, this is going to help you survive the really high damage coming from the enemy boss. Frost is about really slowing the enemy down, and the bosses get really fast. This works on bosses as well. So increased direct damage dealt to ally under the free status. The enemy is not going to be frozen, but here you can see that immediately you're getting 4 layers. The Power of Frost still works even if it's not under the free status. So you're going to be faster than the enemy, and this allows you to really slow down the boss even further beyond this normal slowdown, really cycle and lap the boss, and, you know, do extra damage for direct damage. Finally, the last one is just straight up more direct damage. every 12 turns. So as soon as you're cycling a lot of turns and you're getting the highest attack hero, which is going to be either Dharma or Jingle Bell in this case, you're going to be doing all of this extra damage to the boss. And of course, you get a lot of skill damage, attack, direct damage with this particular set. So that's why the last three is kind of like the best combo, with the exception of when you have to deal with some nasty mechanics from the boss. So enough said about that. I explained Ifrit already, and sorry for the disorganized video. Promise from this point onward, it will be hopefully a lot more organized as I mentally organize my notes here. 31. So this is on Nagia, and you can see that on this team, I use a slightly different team. And of course, you can always refer to these. And you can see I actually, for once, got a record. I got the fastest clear on this. Because I didn't brute force it, and I actually applied proper mechanics to fighting the boss. And my heroes, when I did this, was not crazy by any means. I'm going to show you the stats very quickly. So you can see the gear, right? The gear is very mediocre. There's no real special echoes on there. Really, it's just I was using 4 poison heroes for this. Just to make sure I consistently keep the poison there. Melot was instead of using Melot, I could have used Ben Austin, but what I found was Melot is better than Ben Austin, and what I did on wave 3 is I just kept on spamming Crystal Mark, which is kind of getting a joint attack, just like Ben Austin, but I'm also getting the benefit of increasing poison damage dealt from my entire team. So really, fighting against Nagia, you're really trying to deal with this particular mechanic in the boss. So you are going to deal with the reverse scale. So the Nagia is going to have Toxic Calamity, and each time is going to increase the damage dealt by poison by 25%. But when Nagia has these scales, it's going to reduce damage taken by 60%. So if Nagia has 3 layers of scale, you're like taking reduced damage by 180%. Like, that's just ridiculous. You're not going to be able to kill him very easily. Now, of course, you're a big whale and you just brute force your way through it. You can. But it's way easier if you just steal these scales from Nagia, then all of a sudden you're doing 25% damage. The boss is actually not going to be getting that massive 180% buff. So that's why you saw that I was able to use a very mediocre team that are not well built. I didn't move any gear around for this. And I quickly killed the boss. It was very straightforward for it. Melot, Melot E2 is the one that allows you to just spam joint attack. So if you happen to use a poison team for Wuthering Coast, you know, that's already the standard setup. Okay, Marius is the next one. And when we talk about Marius, we're probably going to see more of this as I organize my notes a little bit. I will make sure I have I'll try to timestamp all the videos. For this one, I used, of course, the poison boosting one because this allows me to do poison damage on every turn. And I kept the slow one and the prowess one. So instead of worrying about defenses, since I'm not going to have much shielding, I didn't have Nordak on that team, I took this one out and replaced it with Power of Enlightenment. When I'm faced up against Marius, and Marius hits very hard, and he freezes you a little bit. But the key thing you want to note is you need to make sure you break this freezing field. So whenever a freezing field is open, he gets extra damage, extra boost, okay? 35% crit, extra hit, damage resistance. So what you want to do is you need to close the freezing field after taking detonation damage 4 times in a row. And this is exactly why on this particular team, you want to be using the Little Jack with Big Jack combo. Both you get you get Big Jack auto attack doing detonation damage, and of course Jack does it on basic attack and on his ultimate. You can even consider banning the second skill if you want, because second skill doesn't do any detonation damage, unfortunately. So that will be probably the best setup. You need to break that field real fast to be able to effectively DPS Marius. That's the key thing. And of course, in the market, you want to be using the one that's boosting your burn damage, right? And this is going to be really good in terms of synergizing very well with detonation damage. Then I will pick the frost one, just so that you can slow down the boss, right? Slowing down the boss is huge. It allows you to cycle better, get all of your cooldowns back up. And I will pick, and here's the option. I use the shield one for this one just because how hard Marius was hitting. If you are comfortable with dealing with the damage and you feel like you can time it so that your Nordak shield is always up, you can always, you know, try to kill faster with prowess. So remember to use burn for this one. Now for the next couple boss, it's a lot easier. Pretty much it's just a simple DPS check at this point. And the boss mechanic is very straightforward. You want to be able to, you know, deal with the self-destruct robots, make sure they're not surviving. Here's where, you know, big massive AoEs help, and you can see that on this most people have just went with the standard build where you use Big Jack, little, oh well, you can see I got second here on the damage list. So this is pretty standard, right? Use Jingle Bell, just completely DPS, shred through the boss. You want a Nordak to help you survive when the enemy decides to launch his robots and stuff into you, or when they hit you really hard. I mean, at this point, the boss is hitting very hard. So timing it and making sure that Nordak's shield is up is very important. Stage 4. Stage 4, and again, for this one, and from here onward, I think, all of them should be on, you know, the last 3 in terms of the boss. This one. So, boss guide. Did I make it to the top? I don't think so. Here's where everybody kind of knew. It's just a straight up DPS check, and you can see my damage was really low, and yeah, it's nowhere near where it needs to be. And this one, it's the same thing. I ran it on the Jingle Bell setup here. Where's the Jingle Bell setup? Yeah, so this is the Jingle Bell setup. I would even say, yeah, this one you definitely need Nordak. The key mechanic you want to pay attention to is whenever he is using his saturation bombing, what happens is you will see a little detonation, a little bomb icon on you. And basically you want to make sure you time your Nordak's damage immunity to that. And once you put up the immunity, then cast a spell to get rid of it. Otherwise, you know, you're going to only be able to use basic attacks, or you face like a massive, you know, hit after you use your skill. Nothing too special. You just need to make sure you time your Nordak skill with that, and you're good to go. Then for the next boss, this is the one probably I'll say a lot of people will get stuck at here. This is the one where I used, which setup? Did I use the setup? I think I used, yeah, I think this is the team that I used. Sorry. Yeah, this is the team I used. And of course, in these setup is, you know, Lydia, you want to, you know, use the second skill. But when it comes to Bunny, this is where I talked about is really having that revive up is super important. Don't be, you know, his mechanic is really simple, right? It's like he's just gonna hit he's gonna be mostly in this form, right? He does an AoE attack. It's like, oh, that's not a big multiplier. It's 150. It's not a big deal, right? Wrong. That 150 hits like a truck. His stats are ridiculous. This boss has 15 trillion HP. Okay, so I don't know what they're thinking, because later in the video you will see where things get really, really weird. Like, he has so much health. Like, it's such a DPS check. And of course, once you break his shield, as you know, he gets his shield back after like 3 turns, right? In 3 turns he can charge back, but his defense is gonna be but yeah, like, and he loses all his debuff, so that means the slowdown that you put on him, all that, if you don't time it right, you might be losing you know, a lot of time, because he could all of a sudden, you know, get a lot of turn meter, and that 3 turn will go by super fast, as opposed to you being able to throw that slowdown on him right before right before you break the shield. So if you're manualing, you can really try to time for that, and it's going to save you a lot of turn, because this is really just a DPS check, and of course making sure you survive, right? So that's why cycling between the Nordak immunity shield and the revives from the bunny is super helpful. If you're gonna hit every single basic attack, is going to hit you like a truck. So what I will recommend is, if you can't protect yourself every single turn with a super fast Nordak, what I'll say is definitely make sure that you are going to protect yourself from Venomous Rock Sting, because he's going to be able to inflict a layer of poison for 3 turns, and that first damage is going to break your Santa's apple, break everything else, and when it's your turn, that poison is going to kill you. So you easily get wiped if you don't have immunity up on this one. You might be able to take a revive or do whatever on the lightning damage. Yeah, try to have your Nordak shield up as often as you can. The team you want to be using is this one, and this is going to help you beat this content. You need all the DPS you can get, and you basically use the Immortality Shield and Bunny Revives to keep you alive. Yeah, that's basically it. Let's see if I made it onto this list. I did it in 280 turns, so I guess right after that, maybe on low power reference. There you go, lower power than the rest. So this was the team that I used. I took 280 turns to beat it. So yeah, totally crazy. And some of these really big players, right? Like you can see everybody's up in the 200 turns. It's a ridiculous DPS check. After this point, if you get past 35, it's a breeze from there for the next 2. This boss is a joke. The health is way lower. You can see most of us are finishing it in like 52 turns. You get to the boss, you just crush it. There's nothing much to his mechanic really. I mean, he can base, the worst that could happen is, he's going to transfer all of the attribute from what you have to self, and he's going to do a single target. So he's like a pushover. And then we'll finish off with the number 37. This one, I don't know what's going on. Normally, this boss will be hard, right? But for some whatever reason, they didn't scale his HP properly, and he's still, at least when I beat it, and we can check right now if they hotfixed it or not. But please don't address this. I mean, yeah, it makes sense to address it, but we'll get to the boss and I'll show you very quickly. Like, remember I said the stage 35 was like 15 trillion HP, right? You would imagine like this got to be like at least in the 10 trillion plus HP, right? But no, you're only looking at half a bill of HP on this final boss. We'll see it in just a sec. And it was super a big joke. Like the waves felt harder. So here you can see the boss. It's not even properly scaled. Like he has so little health. We'll shred through him like almost instantaneously. You see one big hit from Jingle Bell, and you're like dropping 8%. And then on the next hit, we're probably going to drop him to like, yeah, one more hit. He's going to be like at a third. So yeah, this stage is a joke. They probably should fix it, but just don't make it crazy hard like 35. 36, I think there's one thing I want to call it on 36. Some of you might feel like, I think this is the one. It might be this one. I think it's this one. This is the one where the second one you will have to face a Lydia, and you will also have to face Ariel. Yeah, so this is where I recommend you use, instead of using Nordak, I used Wukong on this one just because Wukong is going to help you do some of that damage reduction up front. And of course, you want to use Lydia's third skill so that the Imprison prevents Ariel from from just immediately counterattacking and doing crazy stuff. So that Imprison from Lydia is going to help. So this is one of the nice parts about using Imprison. And of course for this boss, you know, it's a pushover as well. I wonder if they scaled this one properly. Okay, so you can see this is like 8 trillion health, right? Like it'll take a little bit of time to chip away at him, but nothing like the previous one with like a 7.5 trillion shield and a 7.5 trillion health pull on stage 35. So there you guys have it. Hopefully these tips help you. Maybe you wouldn't be pushing crazy amounts in these stages. Maybe you will get stuck at 35, but I hope most of you can at least get close to 29. I feel like that at least give you a good opportunity, especially if you're mid and early game. This help you with a lot of the farming for blessings. If you know, yeah. So that's gonna really help you a lot. So hopefully explaining the mechanics help you deal with these bosses. Now you know what kind of heroes to invest in. Blessing is a really big game changer for the game. And I'll say, you know, in terms of the heroes that you really need, I mean, a lot of us have Little Jack. You don't need a Jingle Bell. Dharma will work perfectly fine in all the places where you saw me use Jingle Bell. And so, yeah, there you have it. I mean, Beatrix is helpful, but honestly, I think Santa can work for where Beatrix is set. So for most of the team, and Esther is free too, right? So, and Lydia. So really that means you get a Lydia. You can get your Santa, you can get your Esther through the Rainbow Store, right? Right. You can get Esther, you can get Santa, you can get Little Jack. You can get Dharma, right? So you really just need to make sure you save your summons for Lydia, and you have Nordak, and you're pretty much set for whether you're set for this content, right? You have all the heroes you really need. Of course, Jingle Bell and Beatrix and Big Jack is gonna, you know, boost the damage a little bit more. But in terms of getting to 39, getting to maybe even 32, 33, you don't need those heroes. So there you have it. Hopefully you found this helpful, and let me know your thoughts in the comments, and I'll catch you next time. Gandalf out.